Kremkroc Industries is not the final area of the game, but I'd argue it's more significant. It's the home base of the Kremling army, and it's where we see their true impact on the environment, arriving too late to stop it. This is part 47 of Overthinking Donkey Kong Country. The Kong's path through the Kremling's base of operations inadvertently gives us a look at each step in their production, confirms their motivations for wanting DK Island, shows the damage they've done to the environment, and how their short-sighted, ad hoc approach is destined to fail, no matter what. To expand on that slightly, Kremkroc's narrative and world building are more intertwined than any of the worlds that came before, but we'll get into that later. I spent a decent chunk of time looking at the Overworld map throughout the previous episodes, but there isn't a single outdoors level in this entire area, so let's take another look anyway. The key points are the 2 refineries, the caves, the pond and bridge. But what sticks out to me most is the evidence that this was once a completely different area. The pond was once a lake and there was once a river running into it. It could have drained down throughout the island, being partially responsible for the abundance of limestone caves we found on the way up. There could have been grass, trees, shrubs, all kinds of things. But whatever there used to be, it's long gone now. It also shows signs of being a quarry, which would imply that Kremkroc was turning into the next chimp caverns in a sense. We start off in Oil Drum Alley, no relation to Ice Age Alley. It's the first of 2 factory levels, and the definitive one, in my opinion. The oil drums are the main obstacle here, but there's an impressive variety of challenges to be overcome. The focal point is clearly just the level theme, but to me the highlight is seeing Rambi again. He's the most iconic animal buddy, but he's been absent since the first level, with 4 whole worlds, a whopping 2/3 of the game between drinks. It's criminal. Trick Track Trek's all about staying on top of the moving platforms. There's an impressive number of enemy types in this level, 12 by my count, which might actually be the most diverse spread of enemies in the entire game. This level falls into what I'm calling the gimmick category, and paves the way for tanked up trouble later on. I'm not so sure I'd put elevator antics in the same category. The elevators are the clear focus here, but they don't show up until the second half of the level, and there's quite a range of challenges throughout. Poison Pond is the final water level, and it's a great way for the water levels to go out. The pallet swap alone is incredible, and the most memorable part of the level. Like Croctopus Chase, this simple alteration does so much to sell the mood, as if you don't feel dirty playing this level. In terms of gameplay, it's fairly linear, but with no shortage of open areas, it does a great job of creating a maze-like feeling. It's a fantastic level, and miraculously manages to make Bite-Size the most threatening enemy of the bunch. Minecart Madness is the second of 2 minecart levels, and has one small but significant change from its predecessor. Instead of bringing the cart with you when you jump, you now leap from the cart itself. So now you're not leaping over gaps in the tracks so much as abandoning a succession of sinking ships. It's exciting, clever, really well put together, and I can't really fault it. Blackout Basement's key element is in its name, as so many of them are. The lights flicker on and off at steady intervals, forcing you to take things slow or move about in the dark, taking leaps of faith. I used to think this was quite a tense level, not unlike Stop and Go Station and the like, but I very quickly wrapped my head around it, and even as a kid, I got to the point where I could breeze through this level quite quickly. Boss Dumb Drum guards the penultimate banana stash. He's one of the more interesting bosses in the game, and he's the only one that has a moveset that deviates from the smaller variants. He pumps out enemies, same as the others, but he also has a stomping attack. He's also the only boss you don't actively attack. When the Kong set foot in Oil Drum Alley, they're stepping into an utterly alien world for the first time. It's all been new after Congo Jungle, but this is the first completely artificial environment they've seen, and they seem to take it in stride, getting on with the job. Oil Drum Alley is one of 2 refineries in Kremkroc Industries, and arguably the heart of their operations. Inside, Donkey and Diddy find Rambi, who has been missing since the very beginning of their adventure. Maybe after his first appearance, the Kremlings realized what a threat he was to their plan and kidnapped him all over again, taking him right back to their home base and putting him down in a pit where they thought no one would find him. Well, the Kongs found him, and together they tore through the facility. The Kongs follow the bananas to the other side of the refinery, which leads them to a conveyor belt in a large underground cavern. Trick Track Trek is the middle ground between mine and refinery, and it's the first time we see how desperate the Kremling situation is becoming. This conveyor belt, a key junction between mine and refinery, is all but completely gone, with only a handful of platforms left. Whether it's just fallen apart from overuse and no upkeep, or the Kremlings have repurposed parts of it in other areas such as tanked up trouble, who's to say? The Kongs move deeper into the quarry, finding themselves in a relatively untouched cave. The first half of elevator antics is relatively unassuming, with no Kremling presence at all, but the second half is completely different. Non-stop elevators transport ore from deep in chimp caverns up to the surface. This part of the cave is not a part of the mines themselves, but is a key junction nonetheless, and is guarded by a skeleton crew of clumps. To reach the other side of the quarry, Donkey and Diddy have to pass through what's left of the Great Lake that once filled the basin, now more akin to a pond. The water is heavily polluted, tinting everything a toxic green. On top of the pollution, the pond is full of discarded mining equipment. It's my guess that the waste from the refineries ran downward, settling here. There are still fish living in the pond, but now that the water has been drained and access to the river above is gone, it doesn't look good for them. On the other side, the Kongs find themselves en route to another refinery, by way of another cart system. Despite being in the heart of Kremling operations, this rail system is in complete disrepair, hinting that operations on this side of the pond might not be as busy as the other. Again, whether damaged from overuse and lack of maintenance, or partially dismantled and repurposed for some other area, we can't say. But it's likely that as the following facility is no longer in use, the Kremlings just let this line rot. Crash diligently guards the second half, but as for why, that's anyone's guess. The rail system leads Donkey and Diddy directly into the second refinery, and as mentioned before, it doesn't look like it's in use anymore. There are no oil drums, and the lights in the entire facility are malfunctioning. Either this place has fallen apart, or it's being deconstructed as it's no longer needed. The theory goes that as Chimp Caverns runs out of ore, there's no need for a second refinery. Could be that in deconstructing it, some Kremlings messed up the wiring to the lights, which is why they flicker on and off. The Kongs follow the trail to the fifth stash, guarded by the robotic Boss Dumb Drum. It can't see, but its systems detect the Kongs, and following its programming, it attacks. They dodge its stomps and defeat the enemies it burps up, and it overloads out of frustration. Can't say I blame him. And just like that, the Kongs descended on the Kremling operation like a wrecking ball, effectively defeating their forces and shutting down production on the island. The job is almost done. They've saved the island from the Kremling menace and got most of their bananas back, but not all of them, and there's still no sign of the big bad to be found. And so the Kongs continue on the trail, not knowing what else could be in store for them. Something I don't think I pointed out in the earlier episodes is how this world sort of mirrors itself. The outer edges are the refineries, the middle of each side is the transport between Chimp Caverns and said refineries, and at the center is the pond. Just a stagnant pool of awful at Kremkroc's lowest point, representative of the entire place. And what better way to sum up the theme of this entire area than that? Kremkroc is a dying operation built on the bones of a dead land. It's the first time the true stakes of the Kong's adventure is shown to us. If they were to fail, all of the island, from Congo Jungle to Gorilla Glacier, could end up looking just like this. Part 47 is in the bag. Kremkroc's an interesting area of the game that tells us quite a bit about the Kremling's motivations and approach to life. It isn't my favorite part of the game, but it's cool and I love it for what it is. One more recap episode and then we're on to the final fight. Thanks for watching.